Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's guest is a true creative powerhouse, Martha Novak. Mm-hmm. She's a celebrated author, a therapist, a corporate coach, a playwright, an actor, and voice talent. From empowering human potential to writing award-winning plays and screenplays, Martha's ability to transform lives and captivate audiences is unmatched. Her nonfiction works, The Life You Want and The Teacup Prophecies, have inspired countless readers. And now she's diving in with her brand new world of fiction with her brand new novel, Blood Mountain. Blood Mountain has already won and only came out this month in November. Yes, young writers out there, plan, do your recipe, you can do it. She has already won the 2024 Story Trade Award for Best Traditional Mystery. And we can't wait to hear about this riveting tale of family secrets, a relentless serial killer, and one investigative reporter's race to uncover the truth. Get ready for evening of inspiration, storytelling, and mystery as we welcome the brilliant Martha Novak. Now, this is amazing because Martha Novak was just recently on the Ken Wall show, who is also her publisher, doing her opening so that she could make number one and get an Amazon bestseller sticker. I bought the book in support, not even knowing anything about her. Hi, Alex. Thanks for joining us. It's only 99 cents. I think you can still get it on Kindle. You might want to get it right now, Alex, because you might stay up all night reading it. I got the book. I don't even read Kindles on my phone. I don't even read Kindles. I like a hard book. I like to highlight. I usually get two. One of the author autographs and one I can decorate. So I finally texted Ken Walls and I said, I just finished Blood Mountain. Could hardly see the words in the last two chapters because of the water drops in my eyes. Wow. I do enjoy, and I don't want to give away anything, so I won't say blah, 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 blah. And then I said, prior to that, I took care of Bolt, that's my dog, a couple of chores, and couldn't wait to get comfortable in bed to finish the book, Blood Mountain. And then I put Strawberry Mountain to make it a little easier. So here she is, the author herself. And welcome Eric B. Flournoy, the mermaid, the author, Martha Novak. I did the same. I have it. Oh, you got to clear some time, Eric. I haven't sat down and read a fiction book in years. I'm usually only reading business books and books to learn and class books. And I thoroughly enjoyed. I can't wait for the series and all the rest of them. Martha.
Hi, hon.
Hi, congratulations on your newest novel.
Thanks. Wow. It's pretty exciting.
What inspired you to write the story of Kata Deer and her chilling investigation?
Oh, probably several things. Number one, I moved back to the mountains. I grew up here in the summertime on the plateau that we're on. It's called the Highlands Caches Plateau. And when we moved back here, I moved back. My husband's from Vienna, Austria, so he didn't move back anywhere. But this place reminds him, I think, of Austria in certain areas. I don't know. These stories just started pouring out of me, So I have really had fun writing Blood Mountain.
And what a story it is.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
This novel is a departure from your nonfiction books.
It certainly is. Absolutely. Yeah. But, I think I've always wanted to write fiction. It's just that I've done a lot of studying through the years, and I wanted to be really good when I wrote one, if I was going to put that much time and effort in it, because, it takes 2 years to write something like this. So, it was time to bring it out now.
Yes, and perfect timing. Oh my!
And goodness. What's funny, Cynthia, is I right away when I got the idea for this book, I thought, well, I might do two protagonists. So I studied how to write two protagonists, and all the books say don't write it; it's too hard. And
Really?
yes, really.
Well, of course that made you want to do it.
Of course, it made me want to do it. Well, I want to learn. I'm having so much fun learning new things.
Yeah.
Yeah, social media not so much, but I'm trying to make my peace with that. But we'll see.
Oh, don't worry. You should see her website, and she's already on Amazon, and she's already been interviewed several times, and she did a book reading yesterday. The woman is amazing.
Well, thank
You
you,
can get
darling.
it now, guys. bloodmountainbook.com. It's on Amazon. You can buy the Kindle for 99 cents. I think that's still on, right?
I
And
think so. It was yesterday. I don't.
it
I,
was
I
yesterday.
think he was waiting to take it off today, when I spoke to you. So it probably is still on. I haven't gotten on the
You
website to
can
look.
try. You can try. And at
Yeah.
the end of our podcast today, Martha has a little surprise if you want to get a hardback copy or a softback copy signed. So hold on, share it out, tell people about this book. It is fantastic, but it's quite a shift from what you've been doing to a fiction book. So how did your creative process change?
Well, you know what? It didn't, not really.
How about that?
The reason I say that is I am only content writing some deeply psychological things. And
Mm.
because that's what I do, when I'm a therapist and in other aspects of my life, like corporate coaching, this was just, I wanted to write some characters that were deeply emotionally in jeopardy, and had some things to figure out. So it seems like a departure, but it wasn't so much of a departure because that's just me as a writer.
I was riveted. It was
Oh,
it
I'm so
was
glad.
the most I was like disgusting. I couldn't believe it. This ever happened. I was like, oh my gosh. The words, her language, her use of color, you're there. You're just like, ah. And at the end of it, I've never been so grateful. I was so
Yes.
grateful to be in my bed.
Yeah.
And I went, wow, when was the last time I thanked my bed for being there and being all cuddly
Yeah.
and perfect? And I was
Mhm.
like, because I was there in the forest and oh,
Yes.
you're gonna have to get this book. I don't want to ruin it. But if you made this into a movie, who would you think would play Kate Adair?
I never think of those things. What I try to do is write a character from the inside out.
Yes,
I'm really interested in the truth of the character. I think these characters are very real. Would you agree?
yes.
Except for probably the sisters, which are a little magical realism thrown in. But I think these characters very much live in these mountains. And, they are who they are. I don't know. I have not cast this because that's not my job anyway. If it goes to a movie,
Not
somebody else's job.
yet. Not yet. Yes, 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 yes. Wow. Um, don't let her fool you. She's talking like an actor when
I
she's
am talking
from the
like an actor.
inside
I
out.
was an actor for a really long time.
And
Yes.
we're gonna go into your life now a little bit. If anyone has questions about Blood Mountain, put them in the chat. Hi Jake, thanks for joining us. Stay to the end so maybe you can win something or other from our amazing author. Share it out, the Blood Mountain. So
Hi, Jake.
Martha, your books, The Life You Want and The Teacup Prophecies, have
Yes.
touched many
Mhm.
lives. Can you share what inspired you to write those?
Well, I have taught for years in my therapy. My therapy is a little different from standard psychology because
Of course
what
it
I'm
is.
what I'm interested in is consciousness and deeper levels of consciousness and enlightenment. And really, there are two parts of all of us, of course. There's the ego child's mind, the part of us that thinks and reacts like a child, and there's the higher self mind. And when I go into corporate America, I'm always trying to get people to the higher mind. They're in the higher mind. They do great presentations. They know how to handle problems far and above what the ego child's mind gets them into. So that's what I do, and so it I think informs everything. It informs my writing as well. I'm quite aware of writing a story like this and doing a lot of ego child's mind stuff, because that's where the problems are. And that's where these characters are, working through their stuff, like we all do, by the way.
How did your journey as a corporate coach begin? And what?
It began out of my acting. I was an actor. I was a child actor, and then I was an adult actor. And one day, while I was had an acting school, I got a phone call from I think it was a client of mine. I believe she was with the Convention Bureau at the time. And she said, Bird's Eye Foods has just lost their speaker. Can you come in and coach all their executives? And I said, sure. It's really fun. In acting, one never says no. You reinvent yourself constantly. You're saying, they call me, say, can you tap dance? And you go, sure. And you run out and learn how to do it, to the best of your ability. Can you sing? Sure. And you do that as well. So this was one of those times. And I went down there, and it was so successful. A new business was born, which was my corporate coaching, based on a technique that I developed of reaching peak performance for actors. So it was just a natural transference to business people,
Yeah,
that's how it started.
So what unique approach did you use to empower the human potential in them? Because you have to dig a little deeper to bird's eye managers sometimes.
Yes. It was my technique is based on energy, and I teach it still. And it is a matter of using energy without nerves and anxiety. And I have a formula to do that, so that people are very calm, have a very calm center, and do some lovely work. For example, I can give you an example of this. Now, this is rather a simplistic version of what I do, but it certainly worked. So one of my companies, I believe it was Fortune 500, if I'm not mistaken, this was a number of years ago, had me coach one of their employees who had to every week give some sort of report to the executives. And he was terrible. He was really dreadful. And he knew he was dreadful. And when I talked to him, it was very obvious this was him just falling apart in front of his very, very domineering and critical father. So I tried several techniques that ordinarily would have worked, but because this was really an embedded issue in him, what I did instead, because I only had a short period of time with him, just several hours, was I said, well, who do you most admire? Who could really give this speech beautifully and really make a strong and wonderful presentation? And he said, oh, and it was a golfer. Now, I don't know anything about golf. I said, okay, great, this golfer. I said, go out now and come in as that golfer. And I want to hear the first part of your speech, about 5 minutes of it, as this golfer. And he went out and he came in and he was transformed. And afterwards, I sat down with him and I said, the golfer isn't here. That was all you, right? And he was just shocked.
Yeah,
and that's
brilliant.
Those kinds of things are how we get people to this until it becomes second nature for them. And then all of a sudden you practice this enough and you're working from that higher self when it matters, and not the ego child's mind, which we often drag into situations like this, and we kind of mess them up that way when we're
that was
still
brilliant.
You
probably gave him a whole new career and upped his daily wage.
Well, and you know what is really interesting? I think a lot of times we come in for business coaching, and really we find a higher purpose to be this more, this better self. You understand? So it's not just about the speech at all. It's about you and your transformation.
And isn't that the truth? We're all trying to be our best selves and get better and better.
Absolutely. And so many of us, they don't teach us what to do with our energies. And so when I was a child, I remember asking a question. We were doing some sort of show, and we got a standing ovation the first night. But there is something called the second night syndrome. And the second night syndrome is actors who have been partying all night, and they come in to do the show the second night, and they've already gotten the kudos, and they're all tired, right? So we were in the second night syndrome, and I was backstage, and I was really young. And I saw the audience not responding to the actors that were on the stage. And the man came off stage and said to the adult behind me, boy, dull audience tonight. And somehow as a child, I knew it wasn't the audience. It was us. And I started asking questions. And that's really kind of the moment this technique came out of me. Through the years, it took through the years for me observing and watching and playing with it myself to come up with a technique that works.
Yeah, listening to your whispers, your higher self, your spirit. You've been highlighted by Fast Company for your pioneering work.
Yes. There was an article a number of years ago on that. Mm-hmm.
And what would you say sets you apart, your methods apart for personal transformation?
Well, it's completely different. It's energy based. It's about adjusting the energy of the body to reach peak performance on command. Did you just sneeze?
No, I had a little cough. In fact, I was thinking perhaps I should get a little sip of water.
Well, by all means do. I have mine sitting right here as well.
Cheers, my lady.
Yes, exactly.
It could be tea, as you know. Your background includes screenwriting and playwriting, and you did it for Scholastic and PBS. How did you transition into writing for these platforms, and what did you enjoy most? I know it's a question, but there's a lot for you to talk about, trying to get all the good stuff.
Well, you're getting the meaty areas, which I don't usually talk about. But I worked for PBS for a while, and they had a deal with Scholastic magazine. So I wrote children's television shows. One on, I think there were 2 science shows and 1 math show. And I was so glad I didn't have to do the math myself. But we made it very enjoyable for adults and children, so there we go. And it seemed like I was in one of them. Maybe I was in 2 of them. I can't remember. It's been a long time. You're dredging up my past.
Well, PBS still dreads up stuff. I'll have to look and see if you're still out there, because they recycle a lot.
Yeah, they do recycle a lot. I don't know whether I am or not. I'm certainly not getting royalties for them. So there you go.
We don't do that so well, but you might want to reach out to them and let them know about Blood Mountain.
Well, that's actually rather a good idea. Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us your experience as a dialogue and accent coach for movies?
Well, I can tell you some funny stories about that, of course.
I love a funny story, and I'm sure our audience will too. And hi, Tessie. Thanks for joining us. This is a great book for you to read, Blood Mountain. And this is our author, Martha Novak, and it is pivoting.
I used to live in New York.
And so did I.
See? Yeah. Well, you're still kind of up in that region. I could not be further away from that culture. But anyway, let's see. You were asking me about accent coaching for movies.
Dialogue, and yes, you have a very interesting voice.
There are very different Southern accents. The Louisiana accent is different from the Shenandoah Valley accent. There are a lot of different accents. So I was often called in to talk about that. And I did a film a number of years ago. I think it was called Elysian Fields. It had a working title of Shenandoah, but there was already one of those. So this one was Elysian Fields. I think Kate Mulgrew was in it, if I'm not mistaken. And what's his name? Foxworthy. I can't remember his first name. Well, anyway, and I had these magnificent African-American men and women who were playing the slaves who had been Oxford educated. And I was teaching them to talk like slaves. And I found it the most peculiar job, one of the most peculiar
Yes,
jobs I'd ever
yes.
had. I mean, these people were just beautiful and smart and intelligent and everything. And I'm teaching them to talk, you know,
That's
in a very strange way indeed. So anyway,
quite a switch, and they worked so hard to get rid of that stigma,
you
and it's
betcha.
really
You
hard.
betcha.
As my acting coach, Glenn Morshaw, would say, "You needed to teach them how to muddy up the waters, muddy up
Yes,
their words."
exactly.
Hi,
I
Zena,
think it
nice to
was
see
a
you.
little bit of that. Yes.
And you hosted a radio show too, Real
Yes.
Talk with Martha Novak. Tell
Yes.
us
And
about that.
that is going to start again a version of it.
Of
This
course it
was
is.
a
Perfect.
90-minute show on Sunday mornings. I have stopped that because the book was so all consuming to get it ready. But Ken, my publisher, has asked me to do 10 to 15-minute podcasts that are a mixture of reinventing the self and being a writer and change and growth and opportunity and some of the psychological things that I was teaching back when. So I'm going to be starting that, I think, sometime this week.
That
So
is
here we go.
fabulous. And you can
Yeah.
catch some of her other work on YouTube. And Eric, will you put up her information where people can reach out and add her to their follow, share, like? See? There you
Thank
go.
you.
There
Oh,
you go.
thank you, Eric. Very nice.
And if you're just joining, Amazon, she's an Amazon bestseller of Blood Mountain,
Yeah,
and you might be still able to get it on Kindle for 99 cents. It kept me up all night. There it is, hardback. It kept me up
hardback.
all night. And the next morning, I stopped everything to read this book. It was thrilling
That's
and
very
scary and
flattering, my darling.
enjoyable,
Yeah, it is kind of scary, isn't it?
and
Yeah.
the twists, and oh my gosh, oh my gosh. But let's
You
talk
know,
about. Go ahead.
this I thought this was interesting. I took this picture, but
Yes, and
Bill
there's actual
Wall
place for real,
was,
guys.
yeah, it's an actual place. It's kind of iconic up here. And I think this was an old house built in the late 1800s that an itinerant preacher named, what was his name? Hang on. Marion Moody lived in. And I thought it was just fascinating. We haven't been able to find any family of his. I think there are some Moody's up here. You know, up here in the mountains, you have two questions that are always asked. One is, who are your people? And whereabouts do you live? Those are the two things we all want to know when we first meet you, you know. So there are some Moody's up here, but what their relation is to them, I don't know.
Well, maybe they'll reach out to you, seeing their house on.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be
And
fun.
your information is found here, so you can share it out, guys. And if you hear anything about the Moody's, please reach out to Martha Novak.
Oh, I'd love to know. Yes.
And she's got other books too. The Teacup Prophecies is also an app. And what inspired you to take the book into the digital space? And you can
Well,
have some new audiences for that.
I would like to claim inspiration. No, it was a kick in the butt by Ken. That's
Ken
it.
Walls, brilliant, brilliant.
I had never so much as taken a selfie. I don't know anything about digital marketing, but every time I come up with an idea, our darling Ken says, that's old school. Don't do it that way. And so it's like, I'm absolutely no use as anything but a mouthpiece and a writer. That's all I do. So,
oh no, he's keeping you young, and he's keeping all those brain cellars.
Oh, it's
firing,
keeping the brain
firing.
cells, yes, active, and sometimes keeps me up at night worrying if I'm doing it right, because I really don't. I mean, this is really unusual for me, you know.
No, it's your new usual.
It's my new usual.
Look at you, you're radiant. You love it.
It's my new usual, because honestly, I got into this very naively thinking, I'll write a book. I think I'm ready to write a good story, and I'll just sit in my attic garret. It's actually not a garret at all. It's just a room. But anyway, and write. And that's all I'll do. And I'll do that the rest of my life. Well, I had no idea. You talk about naive. Boy, was I. Because
yeah, it's not like
all
Ernest
about
Hemingway days, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Zena says that Ken Walls will give you a kick in the butt. Thanks, Zena. It's true.
He does. I mean, he's marvelous. I mean, People go to this man all the time because he has a new way of marketing and of doing things. You know, first time he said this to me, I said, "Oh, well, great. I'll just hire a company." And he said, "Nope. They want to talk to you." So here I am. Please do talk to me. So,
And Ken Walls is very good at relationship capital too, because
oh, he's marvelous. He's
talked to
a
him
real
and he goes,
special man.
he
Yeah.
couldn't believe that I like did that and like already sent him. I mean, I just heard about you. I just bought the book, and then the next day I'm like, I finished it.
Oh,
So,
you're so sweet, darling.
and
I'm so glad you liked
he
it. I really
connected
am.
us, and I really appreciate Ken Walls and Jill Walls, and wow,
They're really
and
special people. I'm lucky
this
to
is
be with them.
how the world gets your word out.
Yeah.
So more people know who you are because we each have different tribes of people that reach out to us, and now they'll know about you. And you know what book I'm talking about.
We
Ah,
do all have that. And you know, I really haven't known how to do this except to market to my local community, and Ken really wants to market far broader than that.
yeah,
So
global.
yeah.
The universe, as far as we know it so far.
Yeah, he's putting pressure on my Austrian husband to get it over in
Excellent.
Austria. So there you go.
Excellent. Maybe
Mhm.
Ken needs to go with you for the promotion over there.
There you go.
He and Jill and Abigail and his other daughter, that would be so fabulous.
Yep, absolutely.
What fun. So, you've been recognized for great transformations in your clients. And can't you see it, ladies and gentlemen? Who wouldn't transform with this woman helping you out?
Well,
Give me
thank
a
you.
story that's like a particular one that you love besides the golfer.
Well, I have lots of stories. It depends on
Yes,
what
you do.
you want to
What
talk
do you
about.
want to tell us about?
Well, I can tell you a story that came up the other day, which is about me, actually. Um, I am about 4'10" in terms of height. You know,
Ooh, but
I'm
she
very
projects
tiny,
large, tall,
and
powerful, doesn't she?
I don't have, well, I think that's helped me in this
Yes,
business because
absolutely.
being a woman, being small, and
Petite,
people are
cuddly.
listening to me, you know, so I must have a good technique. All right. So, you know, that has really helped. I think if I were a 6'2" man, you would expect certain power to come out of that, but I'm small. Anyway, here's a good example of, as long as you're asking, of the power of the higher self mind as opposed to the ego child's mind. So I was in a show a number of years ago called Tintypes, and in Tintypes I played Anna Held. She was a Ziegfeld girl. Okay, and there's a scene where the two men in the cast carry a screen out, and Anna, I am supposed to crouch down low so the audience can't see me, and then go voila and carry on with the scene. Well, that night, we figured out in rehearsal nobody could see me over the screen, as tiny as I am. So they gave me a step stool to carry, and I didn't know my costume until the night we opened, and it was a strapless gown. So when you're wearing a strapless gown and have fast changes off stage, you don't wear a bra, right? So that night I am taking my step stool and I'm crouched down and I put it down. And what I didn't realize is I'm standing on the dress. So when I pop up and say, voila, all of me pops out.
Just throw money, ladies and gentlemen.
It
Just
was,
throw money.
no, let me tell you, it was horrific. I mean, when I think back on it, I think, oh, dear God, because I've always been very shy about my body. I am the most inhibited person, you know. That night, because I was in the best self energy, they'd seen everything anyway. So I just looked down after 10 minutes of applause and went, whoops, and pulled it up and waited for the applause to die down and then went, voila. So I guess what I'm saying to you here is when I pull out the myriad techniques that I use to help people transform and transform quickly into whatever they are. They're certainly their best selves. It's happened to me first. I found out about these two parts of me and did a lot of experimenting and research before I ever taught it to anybody else. So there we are.
That's a great story. The show must go on.
The show must go on. And honestly, what normally would, when I was a little girl, I dived into the swimming pool and lost my top. And that was the most humiliating thing in the world. That's what would have happened to me had I not been in this higher self-performance energy. Being in performance energy, it was about what I could communicate to the audience, making sure they had a good time, even if I was topless. But yes, it was about that. It wasn't about my humiliating childhood experience and my bra floating off in the community pool.
Or the other one when you went skinny dipping for the first time.
I always talk about that up here because I am an old native up here. I grew up here in the summer times. A lot of us have summer homes, and this is my permanent home now, but I grew up here in the summertime. And so there was a bad little girl named Patty. And she was the daughter of one of the men who owned a beautiful hotel named King's Inn that burned down. And Patty and I always got into mischief, and she took me over to Harris Lake, which has a lot of houses, beautiful houses around it now. But back in the day, there was nothing. And she took me skinny dipping. That was the first and last time I've ever done that. And we came out, we had these little things all over us. And we went into the hotel, and my mother and grandmother was sitting around the fire in July, getting warm because it was cold back then. And we walked into this circle of women, little society women, and said, "Look at all this. Patty took me skinny dipping." And the screams you would not believe. And the chairs turned over, and everybody manifested these big rough towels, and they stripped us down and scrubbed us clean of leeches. That's what they were. So I often go by Harris Lake and wonder if the leeches are still in there, because I never see anybody in that.
They heard your story. They ran away.
Nobody goes.
So storytelling helps people understand themselves better. Those are beautiful stories.
Oh, thank you, darling.
Tell us another one.
Well, I've got so many up here. I don't know really what to say. I worked in the theater for a long time in the Highlands. I loved it always. I dragged my husband up on our honeymoon. This was before we ever thought of moving here, to Whiteside Mountain. Whiteside Mountain's a marvelous mountain. It is, they think, anywhere from 360 million years old to 490 million years old. It's one of the oldest mountains in the world. And I wanted my husband to fall in love with this place, and I dragged him up to the top of that mountain on our honeymoon. And I didn't realize he had the flu. And I looked at him only when we got to the top of the mountain, because I was struggling to get up this mountain too, right? And he looked like he was death warmed over. So that was obviously he didn't say, "Let's buy up here." I had abused him terribly. So anyway.
But you didn't take him to the top of Blood Mountain then?
Blood Mountain is not a mountain up here. It was out of my imagination. I heard the name Blood Mountain because it is a mountain in Georgia that was revered by the Cherokee. And I think it was in the fall that I got this idea. We have outstanding fall leaves up here where we are. This is very high. I mean, the Highlands is, I think, the highest township east of the Rockies or something like that. Lake Glenville, where we live, is the highest lake on the East Coast. This is high here, around 4,000 feet. And so we we really love it up here. He loved it up here. I think this reminds him of Tyrol and that region of Austria,
How
which
sweet.
is the sound of music. The hills are alive, that kind of thing. So he likes it.
Tell us about your process in developing characters when you're writing plays and screenplays.
All right. Well, that's interesting. The first draft is always about story. Do you have one?
Not yet, but I will.
Very good question to ask yourself as a writer. Do I have a story? After that, it is about fleshing everything out psychologically, certainly. And, it really bothers me when I read something that isn't psychologically holding together. I like a little magic. I like a little whimsy as much as anybody, but, it's real important to me. So while Blood Mountain is a made-up mountain, it was so symbolic to me because there's something that's very important family-wise that happens on that mountain. There's certainly, there are, not to imply horror, because this is not a horror story, it is a mystery thriller, but, there's some bloody moments. And so that was really important. And the characters just start developing. You just start reading your book. How many times? I don't know. How many times do you read a book when you write one? To me, it just feels like 1,000,
And you're learning the lines for the play, for the movie, the script.
And every single time I would add, things would come to me, and I could add more character. I could add more feeling. And certainly this is about one of both the characters' journeys, but about one of them who she really doesn't know who she is until the end of this book.
And she's so young too.
And she's young. Yeah, well, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have to pick up this book. It's on.
Well, this is going to go on. These characters will go on.
Yeah, I'm dying for the next one already. Can you hurry up?
I
don't think I can wait 2 more years.
I'm going to promise you that you will never figure out who did it in the next one.
I know you're trying to be very cunning with that.
I'm going to be.
You still got me, though. You still got me.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, but it's fun to have characters that you develop over time. Unlike a film, that's one of the things I love so much about theater. You play something over and over and over and over again, and it's not just rote. You actually learn something from your characters every time, or certainly every week when you play them over and over and over again, and they develop. Right. And they get deeper. And that's really fun. That's unlike a film where you go in and you do your scene and you have no idea what the play's about. I mean, what the movie's about. That happens too.
And that's a creative person living her best life. Just like you get new stuff every day. You get, yes, you glean it.
I like that. I really like that about writing, Cynthia. I did head for 2 protagonists, so I'd learn something, so I'd be entertained,
and challenged the whole time you're working on it.
Challenged,
you told you couldn't do it, just like a little spotty redhead.
and by the way, a beautiful blonde too. There you go.
Oh, thank you. How has your perspective on personal development evolved through the years, through your various careers?
That's a good question. You're asking some great questions. I think that while I came up with some marvelous techniques that worked, they have worked for me in my life all through the years. Once in a while, I remember, and I don't remember what I was teaching at the time, but I remember standing in front of a corporate, gig, and it felt like I heard myself say something that I'd probably said 100 times, and I felt the floor just drop out from under me. I felt I don't think anybody saw this myself, but it was like I really got whatever I was teaching at the
Mm,
time.
mm.
I think that happens to all of us. We have to be open to growing deeper ourselves, even with something that we've said 1,000 times.
Yeah, cooked to the right temperature.
Hmm.
What
Hmm.
do you hope people take away when they read your books or listen to your teachings, Martha?
Well, certainly with the book, I hope they'll be thoroughly entertained.
I was.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's what I want. It's wonderful because I always feel like there is something spiritual in my books, just because. Well, my technique is a spiritual technique. It really is. When I might not go into a corporation and talk about God, usually people in that group come up to me and say, "We know what you're talking about. I'll just use the word energy." I remember a woman who is quite a good writer herself, as a matter of fact, um, uh, traveling with me to hear me lecture in corporations years ago. And I tried to talk to her about God, and she said, and it wasn't, I don't think I'm preaching, I'm certainly not, but I was trying to share my technique. And she said, "Oh, don't talk to me about that. I don't want to hear it. And I'm an atheist." And I said, "No problem." And so we talked. I said, "You can't deny energy, can you?" And she said, "No." I said, "Well, we'll just talk. We'll just call it energy. That's fine." It was funny. A number of years later, she called me out of the blue and said, well, yeah, you'd be happy to know I found God." And I said, "Oh, really? How did that happen?" She said, "Well, it was the energy, but you were nice not to tell me that for a while." So, so that
Well,
was good.
good for you for inspiring her.
I don't know. Sweetheart, you just live your life and you do the best you can. I'm always hoping that I can offer something to people they might not know, but I don't strive for that, or you're full of ego. You just have to kind of live your life,
Yeah,
and
go with the flow.
yeah, yeah,
Do
just
your
do what
best
you're
each
supposed
day.
to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So as someone who wears so many hats, as they say, what do you do to recharge yourself and stay inspired, Martha?
Well, thank you so much. The land itself up here inspires me.
Mm.
And I have loads of animals, and I'm always helping animals up here. I've been an animal rescue for a long time, and a rescuer, and I love it. We live on a lake. I'm a very big water person. I love going out in the boat and swimming and that kind of thing. Not this time of year, I may add. Um, and I spend, believe it or not, now you'll probably say, Pshaw, but this is the truth. I'm an introvert. I am like a total introvert. Now, introverts are people that get energy from being alone, and extroverts get energy from being with people. And it's kind of a scale from 0 to 10, 10 being the extrovert. I'm a 0. So when you say, "What do you do to take care of Martha?" I'm going to say, when I have a little time alone, I do. Now, the interesting thing about this is I'm an introvert, and I've developed this great technique so that you don't have to look like that. And, I think it's because I am so introverted that I was able to create an energy technique. I could see it, a perspective that might have been missed by other people that are extroverted.
And you had that good acting background too to help give you a little push in the
Well,
moments when you go, "What the heck?"
yeah, absolutely. You have to go on no matter how you're feeling. So,
Right, like you did. The show must go on
yeah, even
no matter what.
topless, the show must go on.
And the
Yes,
girls are out, they're playing too.
the girls are out. That's absolutely
You
right.
have a nice, um, little reward for those who get the book and read the book and do what?
And if they will, certainly, I don't know how this would work, though. I'm not quite sure. But if you will read the book and give me a great review, I will certainly be delighted to autograph a couple of books and send them to people. So just let me know. It's a great book, and I'm delighted to do that. I just don't. How does that work? How does that work, Cynthia?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, when you get your book and you read it, you go to Amazon and scroll all the way to the bottom and you go to review and you put in your review and then you text or email me and say,
Okay,
here's
great.
my review and and put your address and and I will send it to Martha. And if you're in the top, how many did you say?
Well, why don't we do two? Certainly,
Two. Okay.
anybody that
Whoever gets it in first
yeah,
and second, you can
make
get
it a good one though.
your
Don't you give
own.
me a one star.
Excuse me. We only accept five. No, we only accept
You don't get a
five.
book for one
So if you
star.
don't care for it, please just don't say anything at all
Yeah, that's right.
because
That's
we
right.
need a five.
We need five.
Because even fours lower the whole
Thank you,
thing in the
Jay.
allograms in Amazon. You only have to have fives.
Yes, and we are looking for reviews right now. And now that we have promoted so much, we're looking for people to say what they really love about the book. So that would be just wonderful. And if you will be the go-between, Cynthia, that sounds just great. Then you can send me their information, and I am delighted to sign a book for you and get it to you. Okay.
Isn't that wonderful? Yay. So everyone should be reading, or if it's your thing, because it is so well written.
Thank
It
you.
is mesmerizing.
Thank you.
And I
Well,
don't
and
say
going
that
to be,
lightly.
by the way, even if it isn't their thing to read a book, I'm going to be doing an Audible book, but probably it'll be out in spring or summer, the early part of the summer.
Oh,
So
excellent.
I'll be reading that myself.
Yes, I'm reading mine, but I have to, yes, same.
Good.
How exciting. How exciting. I am so excited that you are with us. And
Well,
you
it's
have
so much fun. You're a live wire, madam. I've been doing some promotion for you too, because I said, oh, I'm just so thrilled about talking to Cynthia. She just sounds so wonderful. And you are. So,
thank you. I
yay.
appreciate that. And everyone knows where I am on this call. So, you can get me through Facebook or Messenger or Cynthia Songs of the Seas or the website or the email that you got the invitation to come to this for. And just let me know. Oh, you can even send a copy. Take a screenshot of your review.
I'd love that. Yeah,
Yes,
that'd be great.
perfect.
I'd like to ask a question
Yes,
because
Martha.
yeah, you and I have just met. Tell me about you as the mermaid. I loved that picture of you in the opening.
I just like to go swimming, just like you.
You like to go swimming, but you're in a
I
mermaid
am
suit.
I'm out to save oceans, make sure everybody can read, and make sure they don't get breast cancer or
Oh,
help
well,
with
yes,
coping
that
with
would.
that and all of our women what goes on coping about that.
I
Because
am so impressed with that beginning. I mean, you were just marvelous. All those fabulous pictures, and then ending with the mermaid shot of you. It was marvelous. It was
well,
fun.
thank you. It
Yeah.
was yeah, it just all came together like you said, just like
Mhm.
and it was
I'm
all
just
said over years. So thank you. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
but when I'm swimming, I'm just paddling around with my little ski belt on. So, because I'm not a real strong swimmer, so I'm not near as glamorous as you are.
It's a great way to stay in shape.
It is. It
And
is.
walking your dogs, and you just got a new puppy.
We got a new puppy. Her name is Pipsy Rosalie. She's a Cavapoo, and we are right in the middle of house training.
Yes, I remember those days.
Ah, yes. And I have
Anyone have any questions out there? How about puppy training? I'm sure you
That's
remember.
right.
Comes
So
back
we're
pretty
crate
fast.
training right now. I just went out and bought a crate. She has only turned 12 weeks old, so she's only just started being able to hold it. So I'm hoping for the best here.
And you have you have another dog or two and a cat?
Yes, I have a poodle who's a small poodle, and he's so sweet to her. He's taking care of her beautifully. So, and three cats, and anything that walks in the yard, birds and otters, and we have lots of things. We saw deer the other day. Now, guys, a lot of you all, I'm sure, have deer in your yard, but we're on a peninsula. And what they have told me about a peninsula is that a lot of animals don't come out all the way because they know they have a thin net to run away in. So it was a big deal for us to have that in the yard. And the other day, I'm sitting there watching television, and our motion light goes on our front porch, and I see a dog out there, looks like a lab, a black lab, and I get up and start going toward the door. And about the time I got to this glass door, it stood up and it was a bear.
Oh my.
I did not open the door, but yeah, it was a black
Thank
bear
goodness.
on
Lions and
the porch.
tigers and bears, oh my.
So, we have everything up here. So
There's a bear in your story.
yes, there is a bear in the story, and that's
I wore my
that
mountain
really happened to somebody up here. The bear in the story, the way that happens to Kate Adair,
Mhm.
really did happen to someone. So God bless her. And her dog was, I think, mauled, but it lived. But yeah.
There's a lot of good stories in here for you. And no animals were hurt in the making of this book, Blood Mountain. And
Yeah.
never
No,
will be.
yeah, never will be. I'm an animal lover, so I have promised all my readers I will not ever kill an animal. So, Cully will live forever.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Thank
Mhm.
goodness. So you're working on this series. How many books do you envision being in this series of?
Well, I don't know. I'll write it until I run out of ideas, and I'll switch to something else. But I think I can. I've got at least two more. I'm already thinking about what I'm going to do with the third. It hasn't quite come together yet, but it will.
And what's your process?
It's a lot of internal process. I expect the ideas will be there when they're supposed to be. Right now, I need to be working on the second book. The working title is Night Frost Lane, and I've got to develop that. I like to develop. This is really intense psychological suspense, so I've got my work cut out for me. And but when the ideas are supposed to come for the third book, they'll be here. It's just not yet. Yeah,
they will.
Yep.
And you have such an interesting mind. I can't wait to hear the twists and turns and
Oh, thank you. I really do. I love puzzles. Do you like puzzles?
Of course, it's good for your brain.
It's good for your brain, and I like them very much indeed. So I love creating them. It's lots of fun.
You need to have your book in a puzzle form.
There you go.
It can
I
be
don't know how to do that, but it's okay.
Yeah, you could sell it in the bookstores next to your book.
Well, absolutely. But it's already in a puzzle form, isn't it? It's a mystery thriller. I can't give anything away until the very end.
It's good. In fact, it'd be really fun to leave one piece out, and they have to call you or ask for it.
They have to find it themselves. Here, there you go.
Oh my goodness, that would be kind of fun. Jake says he's a cat person. Well, Martha has a cat too.
I have 3 cats.
Oh, 3 cats.
I have 3 cats, and I just lost my 4th cat. Oh, let me show you. This is my baby I just lost. If that doesn't tell you something, I'm a cat person too.
Oh, that looks just like my brother's cat, Crystal.
Oh, he was such a good kitty. He was just wonderful, but he died in my arms in August. So we decided to get a little puppy instead of a kitty because my husband is a dog lover. I'm an everything lover, so it didn't matter to me.
And now that you don't have to tour for your book, you can do Zoom calls from home. You can be there with that puppy for the puppy.
There you go. Yeah. As a matter of fact, it's interesting because whenever I start grouching about social media, I think, well, if I was doing the old school, the Pat Conroy days, that marvelous writer, Pat Conroy, whom I love, he would have to go on tour whenever he wrote a book for 2 years. So these days with social media, and I'm sure COVID had a lot to do with this as well, we can be home, we can do book clubs on the thing and interviews like we're doing now. You're in Annapolis and I'm in North Carolina. Yeah. It's really,
collaborate on everything and protect yourself from germs and not spend the money and do the hotels and airfare and planes not going and hurricanes. Oh my goodness.
I remember a time where I would leave my car at the airport with a suitcase in it, ready to go again. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I would have two suitcases with matching things in it so I could just grab the new one and get back on the plane.
I
So it's,
always keep one packed.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's
so I
nice
don't
to be
worry about,
home
like,
though.
putting the essentials in it. So how did you meet Michael?
Michael was a friend of mine 50 years ago.
Woo.
He was in love with my best friend in college. Her name was Barbara. And they fell in love, and, you know, they were heading into something very, very serious. But Barbara was an epileptic,
Mm,
and she was going to a dance with Michael. She was over there for her junior year abroad. Okay, that's how they met. And then she came home to graduate. But right before her graduation, she called me on the phone and she said, Martha, I've just got to go back to Vienna and I've got to go now. And I said, all right, well, I'll see you this summer, because I was planning to meet her in Europe. And just a few days later, she died. She was going to a dance with Michael, and she was in a boarding house. We were all very innocent when we were 20 years old.
mhm,
And
sure.
she went down the hall about midnight to wash her hair, and she had some epilepsy, an episode, and fell in the bathtub and drowned.
Oh,
It was horrible. It deeply affected Michael, deeply affected me, deeply affected her stepbrother, who is a friend of mine still. We went to high school together. And so what happened was that Michael and I wrote each other, and we were deeply grieving. His school, he's an engineer, started sending him over to Virginia Tech, and he would come down and visit Barbara's father and me, and we would just pal around. There was nothing romantic back then. We were just good friends, and to me, he was Barbara's. But through the years, he found a lovely wife and got married, and I found a lovely husband and got married. 18 years later, I got divorced. His wife died, and so out of the blue on LinkedIn, of all things, and I had never been on LinkedIn in my life, but my office put me on LinkedIn. And a friend that I had traveled with to do some psychological think tank testing with him, one day sent me a friend request, or whatever it's called on LinkedIn.
mhm.
And I punched, yes, I will be your friend, or whatever. I don't know what those things are called. And it took me right to a page in there. Of all things, was Michael Novak's note to me saying that he had been recently widowed and he was trying to find me. And he had found me through, he remembered the address of my parents' house, and he researched the who had sold that house and found out my married name and traced me down. Found me on
Oh,
LinkedIn.
oh,
It was quite the story. It really
there's
was.
another story for your book.
Yeah,
I wonder if that bathtub makes an appearance kind of in your first page of your book.
yeah, whether what, darling?
Whether that bathtub story makes an appearance in the first page of your book.
I don't know. It's so personal. And it was interesting because um, the Barbara's family, uh, the the weekend she was buried, had a wedding to go through, a cousin. So none of us had closure on this. Michael wasn't there for the funeral. I wasn't there for the funeral. It was in Pennsylvania. And so through the years, we've all had little pieces of this story,
Mhm.
but it hadn't come together until her father's 100th birthday. And
Hmm.
we went down to Florida to celebrate his birthday, and all the family was there, and everybody had a story about this time.
Wow.
And it was like we all conferred and all put our ideas together, and finally had some peace about Barbara's death. It was a very hard time for us at 20 years old.
Hmm. I
Mm,
can't imagine.
yeah.
But look at you now.
Well, we just have to go on sometimes, don't we? Yeah.
Big breath. Well, thank you so much. Eric, will you put up how everyone can reach Martha Novak?
Thank you, Eric.
And it's Blood Mountain, and then her radio shows, her show's coming out, her podcast. And she's just charming. We'll have to keep an eye out for her books. I know she'll I'll have her back on when her next book comes out, for sure.
2 years from now.
Very cool.
Don't hurry me, kid. I'm trying to figure it out myself right now, you know.
So
I appreciate
Martha, if you go back to the green room, I'll give you a big hug, and I thank you so much for joining us tonight and for your beautiful story. And Blood Mountain really, really, really got to me, and I so enjoyed the ride. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Cynthia. That is just precious, and I appreciate it with all my heart. And thank all of you all. I'm very, very grateful that your audience is interested in this book. It's a lot of fun, and thank you. You know, we're only really as strong as how well the books sell, and I hope it will sell well. So Ken, the publisher, and our friend will want more. So.
And you just have to keep working on it every day and keep
absolutely
letting people know about it, and keep letting people know they need to write those 5 stars reviews, especially if they want to get an autographed book from Martha Novak.
I am delighted to do it. Tell me what you want the inscription to say, and I will be delighted to write it for you.
Perfect. First 2 in with the review. And mine doesn't count because I'm doing it anyway.
Oh, thank you so much, sweetheart. Yours was wonderful. When Ken sent that to me, I said, tell her to write it on Amazon. He said, she will.
And I started to, and then I went, wait a minute, I wanted, because it said you can put a photo in. So ladies and gentlemen, if you want, you can take a picture of you holding your book or holding your Kindle, or you can even just take a picture and
that would be a mountain to me. I would love that. I got one of those from Austria from one of our friends over there, and that meant a lot. So I'd love to see you. Yes, absolutely.
Very fun. So do that, add that to your review, because it makes it extra special. Thank you so much. And we'll be looking for those reviews. Have a good day, night, or morning, wherever you are watching this. Share it out, watch the replays, and I'll see you next time, Wednesday at 7 p.m. for the Cynthia Manion Show. Bye now.